Hello and welcome to Let's Get Real Podcasts. This is episode 5 and the topic today is becoming unresistible. We thought
just like me.
Just like you, Nellie. You're irresistible.
Oh, irresistible. That's right. Same to you. So why are we talking about this today?
I think it's a topic that has come up for me very frequently throughout my life. And I think others will be able to relate to this topic. Mm-hmm. Can you think of how many times you've been in a situation and you felt resistance? Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here.
I think if I was being honest, it's every single day. And I don't enjoy sharing that, but that is the truth. There's at least probably 10 things. I'm aware of it, but there's probably 10 things a day easily.
Yeah, and I think if you honestly reflect on your life and situations that happen on a daily basis, there's many times a day where we have a resistance and we kind of pull back and in our mind we just say, like, I don't want this, I don't want to be doing this, I don't want to be here right now. There's so many situations that, you know, I've found myself in where resistance was coming up for me really strongly.
I can actually apply that right now because when you asked me to do this, first of all, resistance came up just for a split second, but my desire to do it was greater because I wanted to grow. And I just thought, I'm not qualified to do this. You have so much experience in this, and you know, I have difficulty expressing what I feel sometimes, or to my thoughts rather.
Sure.
So it comes up before we sit down every time, but it's not stopping me from doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing to look at is how many situations do we resist, and then we stop ourselves short from doing the things that we want to do. So I think that's a really good point. How many situations have we found ourselves in where we resist to the point where we give up, or we resist some of the things that we know we want to do, but yet we don't actually follow through with it. And we've been talking about this in almost all the other podcasts about following your heart and listening to your soul's truth. So I think this topic sort of goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about.
You might want to follow your heart, but yeah, it prevents you from doing that, right?
Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I notice when I've moved into resistance is that I feel a contraction in my body. Mm-hmm. I feel my body tighten up. I've instantly moved into a stress, and my body starting to take on stress. And then the other thing that I notice is that I'm moving into my mind, because the dialogue that's happening in my mind is all around why I'm resistant, or all the dialogue sort of revolves around complaining about something.
It's the ego's really holding you there by doing that, right?
And I find that the more that we talk in our mind, the more resistant we become, or the more tension that we hold. And if we're resisting a situation, say, where we have to go work every day, mm-hmm. We may hold that tension and hold those resistant thoughts in our minds throughout the entire day.
Definitely affects our health that way, right?
I think it has a tremendous effect on our health.
Do you think it's because, I think maybe it is, but we're identifying with it as ourselves?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's why it obviously affects us, and it's not based in truth, so it's a contracture, right? Mm-hmm. It's felt as that stress.
Yeah, so the mind that comes, the voice in our head that rises up says, me, don't want to do this, mm-hmm. or I don't like this, I'm afraid of this. But that voice in your head is not who we are. Rather, it's just a component of the ego. The ego is constantly just chattering away, mm-hmm. all day long, and it complains, and it moves into acceptance over things that it likes, and it wants to repeat what it likes all the time.
Yeah, there's definitely a distrust with life while this is happening, right?
So as I've looked at this topic thoroughly throughout the years, and I sort of covered this topic when I talk about surrender. So when I think about resistance versus surrender, as soon as I say the word surrender, I feel it in my body. Like there's an association for me of just relaxing. It's like I instantly let out tension in my body.
The body's saying thank you.
So this is a practice that I've been playing with for several years, and it doesn't mean that I'm always good at it, because as you know, you live with me, you see me resist all kinds of things. When you said that you have resistance in your life on a daily basis, I'm no different than that. So this is a practice that I'm doing.
Yeah, I think we were talking about how that every time it comes up, it's an opportunity. Not to beat yourself up either, right? It's an opportunity to really take a look at those areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the next area I want to move into is understanding that whatever is showing up in our life is a creation. And I would say that whatever keeps showing up in your life is our creation. So the result of whatever's around us is the result of the choices that we've made.
Conscious or unconscious.
Conscious or unconscious.
Yeah.
It's the result of all the thinking. Whatever we think about and have emotions about comes about. So those things sort of start showing up in our lives.
So it can be quite offensive at first when somebody says to you, you're creating everything yourself. It's still coming from you, whether you like it or not. Allow those feelings to come up, even if they suck. Allow them to come up, because they will not stay forever. It's just energy moving, and it's trying to find a way out to be expressed. We don't have to contract around it again, right?
That's right. So when we notice that there's so many things that we're resisting, my first thought now is that this is my creation. Somehow, some way, I've created this, or this situation has been created for me, not to me. And I that was a point that my friend Susan Weisenberg said, a friend of mine from Arizona. She, many years ago, she said, Ned, your life is happening for you, not to you.
Yeah, that was wise.
And I've carried, I don't know if she got that quote from somewhere, but I've carried that forward many times in the area of resistance. When I'm thinking, poor me, this sucks, I can flip into the mindset, this is happening for me, not to me. Maybe the things that we resist the most are the very things that we need to surrender to. Maybe they're not. You can't, there's not a one size fits all, like in any of the topics that we talk about, right? So we've identified that resistance comes up frequently for me, for you, and I'm sure for everyone. And then we've moved into the next stages to maybe understand that what's around us is our creation. And I think when I started to take responsibility for everything that I was resisting, instead of me resisting it in my mind, I moved into acceptance and started to look at, how is my inner world creating this outer world? What choices am I making in my life that supports this outer world to continue on? What creates all these opportunities for me to resist? And when I started to look at that, I started to see more clearly how I was going to manifest a life that I no longer had to resist. So I think the difference now is that when I look at my life, there's fewer and fewer things that have been coming up for me to resist. And it's because I've started to become more conscious of what it is that I'm creating in my life. And I think that's the real turning point, if you can, instead of continuing to move into the mind, into resistance, if you can bypass that and just take a deeper look at what's around me, how can I create a life that becomes unresistible? How can I create a life where I feel like what I'm doing is in sync with my soul's purpose, my soul's truth? And I think that's the key. It's not that when we decide to make a change that instantly our life changes. And I think it's important that these are practices. These are things that we put into motion, and we slowly grow these things into our lives. Like when you plant a fruit tree, it doesn't flower and fruit in 2 days. It takes time to take root and to gestate and to grow that. And so these are practices that I've been playing with for a long time, and now that they're starting to grow fruit in my life. And the benefit is that my body I don't feel so much tension in my body. I don't feel nearly as stressed as I used to. I still have stress. I still have stressful moments.
So how much has that changed the world around you? Like your life is, the people that you draw to you are different. Everything's different, right? When you start shifting that from a more conscious place.
Yeah. In a life that's full of resistance and full of me pushing at what I don't want, I'm actually just focused on the thing that I don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
more
focused.
of it you get, right?
I'm not focused on the love or the life that I want to create. So it's like you keeping your focus as a laser beam, keeping it right on track with, this is where I'm going to be. So you hear people stay in your lane.
Yeah.
That's great advice. I love that.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Is your lane all the things that you are resisting? I don't think so. Your lane is all the things that you know to be your path and your purpose. Any final thoughts or conclusions about resistance and acceptance?
Yeah, I just want to say that with the way things are right now, where people feel that we don't have time, we don't have energy, because our life is feeling depleted. I feel like if you feel like you don't have the time to do that, why not try something different and let go? And I think it's just the ego that feels so fearful. You feel like if you let go and you trust that you're going to somehow fall apart, or I think it's the self, you think you're going to just not exist anymore. It's a threat to the I, right? And it's just not true. There's such a divine plan, and everything is so choreographed in this life that we don't really need to worry about that. And I'm somebody who's trying to learn that every day too. You know, even it's one thing to know it and another thing to apply it. You can't be attached to the outcome that it has to be easy, or why isn't it easy yet, or you're a good example. If you just hold focus, it will bear fruit. Things will change. But there's a lifetime of momentum, right?
Absolutely. And I think you make such a valid point when you say that it's not that things are going to be easy. And we don't have to resist all the difficult things and accept and enjoy all the things that are not difficult. Sometimes difficult produces what only easy dreams of. You know, I've found myself in many situations where I've just persisted through difficulty and just surrendered myself to just keep plugging away, working at the thing that it is that I want to create. And in the end, there's so much satisfaction out of working through difficulty.
I think it's good to give ourselves a check too once in a while. Like sometimes we feel like a victim to things, and we're not. You can either be a victim or you can be empowered, right? But you can't be both. And I try to remind myself of that. And also, I guess an example of a really difficult thing that comes up in life would be grieving when you lose somebody, and you feel like it's impossible to go through it, there is always grace. There's always grace if you just stop, cry if you must, but just stop and breathe and take a moment, and there's grace in every situation. It's happening for us, for sure.
Yeah, even this morning, you and I had a moment. We found the video from my father's funeral, and instead of resisting that moment, we both just cried together, and we didn't resist that, and it was actually a beautiful moment of release. It was.
Yeah, our hearts just became so full, and we didn't know that was going to happen, but we didn't resist it at all. Yeah, there's so many things that are waiting for us, and we don't know because we try to control it. But if we didn't, you just can't even dream how many things are coming for you, right?
And there's a certain amount of things that we resist that will persist until we actually move into it and accept it, or move through it, or move out of it, whatever the case is. And sometimes the things that we're resisting are actually the things that we need to do the most. It's our purpose trying to move forward into our lives. And that's why certain things will persist. As long as we resist, they're still going to persist. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your comments and your feedback about the posts. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.